You only sent 63 cents. Is this some kind of joke? Ashley sends us $5,000 every month. Do you even care about us? My father's voice blasted through the phone, so loud that I had to pull it away from my ear. I froze, confused, humiliated, and boiling with disbelief. I had just wired my parents $5,000 that morning. That money didn't fall from the sky. I had skipped meals, worked double shifts, and barely slept for weeks. Every dollar felt like a drop of blood. And now I was being accused of treating them like garbage. Before I could respond, my mother chimed in. Her voice had that sharp, disappointed tone that always hit me right in the chest. Lauren, Ashley's a model. She's busy, but she still finds time to take care of us. You just live alone, spend money however you like. Do you even think about your family? I felt something inside me crack. Ashley, always Ashley. The golden child with her perfect smile and big eyes, everything about her was shiny and dazzling. And somehow every time I tried to step up, it was like I didn't even exist. But this was beyond unfair. I did send the money, $5,000. I've been doing it every month. My voice shook half anger, half exhaustion. But my father didn't believe me. Stop lying. Ashley told us she's the one sending all the money. You sent 63 cents. That's all. Don't insult us like that. They hung up before I could say anything else. I just sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, hand trembling. 63 cents. That was impossible. Then it hit me. Ashley had insisted we use the name Rainbow when we started sending money. Let's keep it fun and secret, she had said. Back then, I thought it was just one of her weird quirks. But now I knew something was off. My account said 5,000 had been sent, but somehow my name, just my name, got attached to the tiny, insulting 63-cent transfer. I looked down at my bank app. My savings were nearly gone. I had been living off frozen meals and overtime just so I could do my part. And for what? To be accused, blamed, humiliated. I wanted to scream, but all that came out was silence. A heavy, choking silence that wrapped around my throat like a rope. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was betrayal. When I was a kid, I used to believe love was something you earned. If I just behaved better, if I got straight A's, if I didn't complain, maybe my parents would look at me the same way they looked at Ashley. But that look never came. Ashley was 5 years younger than me, and from the moment she was born, everything changed. Everyone said she was the most beautiful baby they'd ever seen. Nurses cooed, neighbors gushed, strangers stopped us in grocery stores just to stare at her. She's going to be a star, my mom would say, eyes glowing like she'd won the lottery. Meanwhile, I stood there clinging to the edge of the cart, wearing a pair of second-hand jeans that were too short and a hoodie with someone else's name stitched on the front. If anyone noticed me, it was only to say how different we looked. She's adorable, and this must be her sister. A pause. Oh well, she has a nice smile too. Nice smile. That's all I ever was. Nice, plain, background noise. Ashley got brand new clothes every season. Ballet lessons, piano painting, gymnastics. Anytime she so much as pointed at something, she was enrolled. Me, I was told we couldn't afford extra things. You understand, right, Lauren? You're the older sister. I heard that line so many times, it may as well have been carved into my skin. I remember one winter, I had outgrown my only coat. My mom told me to wear layers, just wear 2 hoodies. It's fine while she took Ashley to the mall to buy a new pink wool peacoat with matching gloves. That was just how it was. One day when Ashley was around 8, She threw a tantrum in the middle of dinner. I want my own room. I had been using that room for years. It was small, but it had my bookshelf, my desk, my favorite posters on the wall. It was mine. But the next morning, my mom told me without a hint of guilt, "You're moving to the living room. Ashley needs space to express herself." I ended up sleeping on a futon next to the bookshelf with my grandparents' old photos staring down at me. There were nights I cried into my pillow quietly so no one would hear. My grandparents were the only people who ever made me feel seen. Grandpa used to let me sit on his lap for hours. He said I was calm-wise, that I had an old soul. He gave me my name, Lauren, after the spring flowers he used to plant in his garden. Said it meant strength in softness. I held on to that like a life raft for years. But after Grandpa died, that warmth disappeared from our home. The walls grew colder, the voices sharper, the favoritism louder. Ashley never had to share, never had to ask. She took what she wanted, and when I objected, she'd roll her eyes and say, "It's not like you're using it." I once caught her sneaking into my drawer and taking my gel pens, ones I saved up weeks to buy. When I confronted her, she smirked. "You're so dramatic, Lauren. Chill out." When I told my mom, she sighed and said, "She's still a child. Let it go." Even when Ashley was wrong, I was told to be the bigger person. "You're the older sister." That line again and again, like a curse. I learned not to argue. By the time I was 16, Ashley had her own walk-in closet and a private tutor for math. I had a part-time job at the local diner to save for college applications. But when I told my parents I wanted to go to university, to become a school nurse, they laughed. "We don't have the money for that. Be realistic." "But what about Ashley?" I asked, knowing the answer before it came. "Lauren, she's special. Don't compare yourself." They didn't even pretend anymore. So I gave up on college, took a full-time job at a warehouse nearby, moved into a shared apartment with 3 strangers because staying in that house where I was nothing but invisible was suffocating. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd fought harder, if I'd yelled, screamed, demanded my place. But that's not how I was raised. I was raised to sacrifice, to smile through it, to step aside so Ashley could shine. And the worst part, I accepted it. I told myself it was normal, that maybe I didn't deserve more, that some people are just born to support the stars, not become one. I didn't realize how deep those roots of guilt had grown in me until years later when Ashley called and said, "Let's give back to Mom and Dad. Let's show them we're grateful." My heart ached at the chance to finally be equal, to finally do something together as sisters. So I said yes, and I had no idea I was walking right back into the same trap, just dressed in adult clothes. It started with a phone call. Ashley's voice was unusually warm, even cheerful. She talked fast, like she was rushing through something rehearsed. "Lauren, I've been thinking we wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for Mom and Dad. Right? I mean, everything we've achieved, it's all thanks to them." That caught me off guard. Ashley rarely talked about gratitude, let alone mentioned me and her in the same sentence. She went on, "I want to do something for them, something big. I'm thinking, let's each send $5,000 a month, just to say thank you, just to show we care." My stomach dropped. 5,000. She said it so casually, like she was asking me to split a pizza, not hand over a full paycheck, and then some. 5,000, I repeated, trying to mask the shock in my voice. "Ashley, that's a lot." "I know," she said, "but think about how surprised they'll be, how happy it'll make them. Honestly, it's not even that much if we split it between us." I hesitated. Ashley was a model, at least part-time. She'd been scouted by an agency during college, and our parents talked about it like she was on the verge of superstardom. I didn't know exactly what she earned, but I assumed she had money. Me, I made just over $3,000 a month at my accounting job. My rent was $1,400. Utilities, groceries, insurance. It left me barely scraping by. To give $5,000 a month, I'd have to dip into my savings, and that wouldn't last long. Still, something in me ached to say yes. Maybe I was desperate to prove I wasn't selfish. Maybe I still wanted to believe we were finally equals. Maybe I just wanted to be loved. So I agreed. Okay, I said, let's do it. The first month I drained my savings account. Zeroed it out. It was painful, but it felt noble. Like I was finally doing something worthy of recognition. The second month, I realized I couldn't keep this up without extra income. I took a weekend job as a security guard at a construction site an hour from my apartment. The shifts were brutal, 12 hours long, standing in the cold or heat depending on the mood of the sky. My body ached constantly. I barely had time to rest. My weekdays were spreadsheets and deadlines. My weekends were steel boots and sunburns. But I told myself it was temporary, just a few months, just until I got ahead. I stopped eating out, stopped buying new clothes, gave up Netflix, my gym membership, even my morning coffee. There were nights I fell asleep, fully dressed, phone still in hand, alarms set for both jobs. I started studying online, hoping a professional certification would bump my salary. I studied on buses, in bathrooms, during lunch breaks, anywhere I could carve out 5 minutes. And through it all, I never once heard a thank you. My parents didn't call, didn't ask how I was doing. The only messages I got were forwarded from Ashley screenshots of Mom smiling with a new handbag, Dad at a steakhouse. Look how happy they are, she'd text with sparkles and hearts. I'd smile at the screen, but something always twisted in my chest. I was falling apart to fund their comfort, and no one seemed to notice. I remember one Saturday night vividly. It was early spring, still freezing after dark. I was stationed at the construction site wearing 3 layers under my uniform. My breath came out in clouds. My feet were numb. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my thermos. A foreman came by on his break, looked at me and said, "Didn't expect to see a lady out here. You all right?" I nodded, too tired to answer. He came back 5 minutes later with a cup of hot coffee and a protein bar. "Here," he said, "you're working too damn hard to be this cold." I took it, hands trembling, not from the weather, but from the kindness. It had been a long time since anyone had seen me. Not the employee, not the paycheck, just me. That night I cried in the car. I don't even know why it hit me then. Maybe because someone offered me a cup of coffee, and it felt like more care than I'd gotten from my own family in months. Still, I kept going. 3rd month, 4th. I took the certification exam and passed. It didn't change much immediately, but it gave me hope. A sense that maybe this grind would lead somewhere. But the money still vanished the moment I got it. Ashley had set up the transfers through a joint account labeled Rainbow Fund, her idea. "It sounds nicer," she had said, "like we're sharing something beautiful." I didn't question it. Maybe I should have. One evening, after sending that month's $5,000, I texted Ashley. "Hey, just checking, are we both sending from the same account?" She replied instantly. "Yep, don't worry, I'll handle the technical stuff. You just keep transferring to me, and I'll make sure Mom and Dad get it. Let's keep it a surprise." Okay, something about it felt off, but I was exhausted. too tired to fight, too desperate for peace. So I nodded at the screen like it could see me and put my phone down. That was the beginning of the unraveling, the moment I stopped listening to my gut and started drowning in someone else's lie. ChatGPT said it was a Tuesday afternoon. I was halfway through reviewing a client's expense report when my phone started buzzing on my desk, then again and again and again. 6 missed calls from my parents in under 10 minutes. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Something must have happened. An accident maybe, a medical emergency. I picked up on the 7th ring. Before I could say a word, my father's voice exploded through the speaker. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I flinched so hard I nearly dropped the phone. "Dad, what's going on? You think we're stupid? Is this funny to you? 63 cents? What kind of insult is that?" I blinked confused. "What are you talking about?" "The money Lauren you sent 63 cents this month. Are you trying to mock us?" For a split second, I thought maybe he had the wrong number. Maybe he called someone else and thought it was me. "I don't what I sent $5,000, just like always. I sent it last Friday." "Don't lie to me," he barked. "Ashley showed us the statement. She sent $5,000. Your name was on a transfer for 63 damn cents." And suddenly the world tilted. My breath caught in my throat. My fingers went cold. "Wait, that's not right. I transferred it to the Rainbow account," Ashley said. "Save it. We've had enough of your selfishness. Ashley does everything, and you don't care about us at all. Just living your little single life, spending money on God knows what." My mom's voice broke in sharp and shaking. "You know what it feels like to know one daughter is doing everything, and the other sends pocket change like we're beggars. You're disgusting." They hung up. Just like that, I sat frozen in my chair. The hum of the office around me felt miles away. Someone across the room laughed at something on their screen. A printer beeped behind me, but I couldn't move. 63 cents. There was no way. I opened my banking app, fingers trembling. The transaction was there. $5,000 sent to Ashley's linked account, labeled Rainbow Fund, just like always. So what happened? And then it clicked. That first month, Ashley had said, "Let's use Rainbow so it's anonymous, so they don't know who sent what. It'll be cute." I had agreed, thinking it was harmless, but I hadn't checked what names were showing on the recipient's side. Apparently, Ashley had made sure hers showed up on every full payment. And mine, she tagged my name on one tiny placeholder transaction, 63 cents. Maybe to keep the account active, maybe to make it look like I was participating. But to my parents, it looked like she was giving $5,000 every month, and I was treating them like trash. It was deliberate. It was cruel, and it broke something in me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, chest, tight jaw clenched. I had worked myself into the ground, sacrificed time, health, friendships, sleep, all of it, to help the people who raised me. And this was how they saw me. As a joke, as a disappointment. My phone buzzed again, another message from Ashley. "Hey. So I told Mom and Dad we should keep everything under Rainbow, remember? But I think the payment thing glitched a bit. Don't worry, I'll fix it soon. Just chill. Chill." I read the message over and over, my eyes burning. That wasn't a glitch. That was a setup. A betrayal wrapped in emojis and fake sweetness. I didn't reply. I couldn't. The next morning I made coffee and sat quietly at the kitchen table, staring at my empty bank account. The number stared back like a silent accusation. A part of me wanted to scream, to call them back, to demand an apology, to tell them the truth. But deep down, I already knew what they'd say. They'd believe Ashley. They always had. So I made a decision. I stopped sending money. No warning, no explanation, no farewell. If I was going to be the villain in their story, then fine, I'd be the one they didn't expect. 2 weeks passed, then a month. The silence from my parents was deafening, until one evening, as I was about to leave work, my phone rang. It was Ashley. I considered ignoring it, but something in me needed to know what she'd say. I answered. Her voice came sharp and defensive. Why haven't you been answering calls? And where's the money, Lauren? You can't just stop without telling anyone. That's messed up. I let the silence stretch. Then I said slowly, you knew exactly what you were doing. What are you even talking about? You put your name on my payments. You left mine on 63 cents. You let them believe I was the selfish one. You let them tear me apart while you smiled and sent selfies of Dad eating filet mignon. That wasn't Lauren, you're being dramatic. It was just a name thing. Who cares? I care, I snapped. Because while I was working overtime, barely affording rent, you were telling your friends I was your source of funds. Silence, a pause. Then she muttered, who told you that? Nina, I said. She heard it from someone who knows you, and now I know everything. Ashley's voice cracked. You don't understand how hard it is for me. Okay, modeling isn't easy. I have pressure too. But you lied, to them, to me. You made me feel worthless just so you could look good. She started to say something else, but I hung up. I was done. Done begging for space. Done explaining myself. Done being the background character in a play I never auditioned for. They had taken everything from me, my trust, my money, my peace of mind, and spun it into a story where I was the villain. But now I was rewriting the script. I hadn't spoken to Nina in months. Life had pulled us in different directions. After college, different cities, different jobs, different chaos. But she was the one person I trusted to give it to me straight. No sugarcoating, no theatrics, just truth. After everything with my parents and Ashley, I needed that more than air. I texted her on a Wednesday evening. Hey, are you free for lunch this week? I really need to talk to someone who actually has a functioning moral compass. She replied within minutes, Nina, that sounds dangerous. Meet tomorrow, 12:30. I'll bring truth and tacos. We met at a quiet spot near her office in Manhattan, a little Mexican place, tucked between a laundromat and a copy shop. She was already seated, sunglasses pushed up on her head, a half-eaten carnitas taco in hand. As soon as she saw me, she raised an eyebrow. Damn girl, you look like you've been carrying bricks uphill with your teeth. I managed a weak smile. Close. It's more like carrying a whole family's lies with my last nerve. She didn't ask anything else, just gestured for me to sit and handed me a taco. Start from the beginning, and I did. I told her everything about Ashley's plan, the rainbow account, the 63 cents, the screaming phone calls, the twisted narrative that made me look like the villain. I laid it all out like broken glass on the table. Nina didn't interrupt, just listened, brow furrowed, mouth set in a straight line. When I finished, she let out a breath through her nose, slow and sharp. I don't even know where to begin, she said. Your sister is a manipulative little con artist, and your parents damn? That's a whole other level of dysfunction. She took a sip of her drink, then leaned forward. Lauren, be honest with me. Do you think your parents are actually struggling financially? I hesitated. Ashley said they had debts, that they were stressed. Nina narrowed her eyes. But did you see any proof? I paused. No, I just believed her. She said they'd spent so much raising us, and that this was our way of giving back. Nina scoffed. You didn't even go to college because they wouldn't pay for it, remember? But they sent Ashley to that fancy private university in California and paid for her dorm and her car. So if anyone got raised with extra expenses, it was her. The truth hit like a punch to the chest. I guess I thought maybe this was my chance to matter, to be a good daughter, to finally do something they'd appreciate. Nina gave me a look I'd seen before. It was her you poor sweet idiot face. Lauren, you are a good daughter. That's not the issue. The issue is they've manipulated you into believing that being useful is the same as being loved. I swallowed hard. She leaned back, arms crossed. I have a friend who knows Ashley socially, through some influencer brunch circle or something. According to her, Ashley's been telling people she's cut off and that her big sister is her only financial lifeline. Said she might have to skip her Botox appointments if you don't come through. I blinked. She, what? Nina nodded completely unfazed. Yeah, and apparently she told someone that you're boring but rich, which is laughable because last I checked, you've been eating instant noodles and working 12-hour days in a construction vest. Rage started to rise in my chest, slow and hot. I can't believe this. I can't believe she made me the punchline of her fake little lifestyle. It gets worse, Nina said. You want to know where your parents' money problems actually came from. I stared at her silent. They bought a new car, took a vacation to Aspen, and your dad, he's been spotted at the casino 3 times in the last 2 months. My stomach turned. What? Yep, my friend's uncle works security there. Said your dad's a regular, sits at the blackjack table like he owns the place. Everything inside me deflated. All the missed meals, the freezing nights, the extra shifts. All so they could play rich while I played the fool. I looked at Nina, eyes wet. Why didn't I see it? Why did I keep giving and giving thinking it was love? She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Because you're a good person, Lauren. That's it. You wanted to believe the best in the people who were supposed to protect you. That doesn't make you weak. It makes them unworthy. I nodded, tears brimming but not falling. I'm so tired, Nina. So tired of being the one who bends until I break. Then stop bending, she said. Break the damn cycle. She said it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And maybe it was. For years I thought sacrifice would earn me peace. But all it ever brought was silence, loneliness, resentment buried beneath politeness. Nina squeezed my hand. You don't owe them your sanity. You don't owe them your savings. You sure as hell don't owe them an explanation. I finally exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. You're right, I said softly. Of course I'm right, she smirked. Now eat your taco before it gets cold. You've got a whole new life to plan. A week passed. No calls, no messages, no guilt-tripping voicemails. It was eerie like the silence before a tornado hits. Then on a Thursday morning, just as I was heading out the door for work, my phone lit up. Mom. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the red button. But something inside me said, pick up. I answered. Her voice was sharp-clipped, like every word had been waiting to explode. Well, I suppose you're done pretending now. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I knew exactly what she meant. She went on. You think just because Ashley told us the truth, you're off the hook. You think that excuses your behavior. My jaw clenched. She knew. Ashley had finally told them, probably after realizing the money had stopped for good. Maybe her pride couldn't survive another month of silence, or maybe she was scared they'd come after her next. Either way, they knew. Still no apology, no remorse, just blame. "You've embarrassed this family," Mom continued. "Letting things fall apart like this, you've created chaos where there didn't need to be any." I felt a deep, raw laugh building in my throat, but I held it in. Created chaos? That was rich. "Mom," I said calmly, "you lied to me. Ashley lied to me. You spent money I didn't even have. And when I broke myself trying to keep up, you called me a disgrace." There was a long pause. Then she snapped. "You've always been difficult. Always had that attitude. Your sister, she's not perfect, but at least she understands loyalty." That was the moment I realized we weren't having a conversation. This was a transaction. They didn't want the truth. They wanted control. "I'm not sending another dime," I said. "You don't get to decide that," she shouted. "We raised you, Lauren. We put food in your mouth and clothes on your back. How dare you turn your back on us now?" "I didn't turn my back," I said. "You pushed me away, years ago." Then I heard another voice, my father's. "Is that Lauren?" He didn't wait for confirmation. "I don't know who you think you are. Talking to your mother like that. Acting like we owe you something." I opened my mouth to speak, but he cut me off. "You either send the payments like you were supposed to, or we use your grandfather's inheritance to cover what you owe." The room tilted. "What did you just say?" "You heard me," he said, voice like steel. "Your grandfather left money in your name, but we're still legally able to access it. Don't forget where you come from." I couldn't breathe. That money, he left it for me, specifically, quietly. He'd told me once when I was 15 that he'd set something aside just in case you ever need to get out. I thought it was just a figure of speech. But now it felt like he had seen all of this coming. "You touch that money," I said, shaking, "and I swear." What my mother snapped. "You'll stop talking to us. Guess what, sweetheart? You already have." Then she said it, the sentence that would change everything. "We don't need a daughter like you." The words hit like a slap across the face. Not screamed, not cried, just stated. As cold as stone. "You're selfish, ungrateful. You've always been like this," she said. "Ashley may not be perfect, but at least she's trying. You're just bitter." And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry. I didn't break. I felt nothing. Like a final wire had snapped and the current was gone. "Do what you want," I said, "but don't ever contact me again." I hung up, not out of anger, but out of mercy, for myself. I stood there in my hallway, still holding my keys bag over my shoulder, the morning sun slanting through the blinds like nothing had happened. But everything had. A line had been crossed, a final door shut. That night, I opened the box under my bed, one I hadn't looked at in years. Inside were old letters from my grandfather, a watch he'd left me, and a legal folder I hadn't dared open. I did. Inside was the document, clear direct, with my name typed in bold letters. Lauren Elizabeth Ward, sole beneficiary of the trust. They had no legal access. None. They were bluffing. I closed the folder and sat in silence. Not out of fear, out of clarity. All these years I thought I was weak because I couldn't walk away. But the truth was, I had been strong enough to stay. Now I was strong enough to leave. The day after I hung up on my parents, something in me shifted. It wasn't dramatic, no big breakdown, no shouting into the void. just quiet clarity. The kind that feels like waking up after years of sleepwalking. For the first time in my adult life, I wasn't surviving for someone else. I wasn't performing. I wasn't chasing approval I was never going to get. I was just me, raw, bruised, but free. I didn't tell anyone at work. I didn't broadcast some grand awakening on social media. I simply started showing up differently. I sat up straighter. I stopped apologizing every time I had an idea. I stopped shrinking. And people noticed. My manager called me into his office after a client meeting one day. He shut the door, sat down, and said, "I don't know what's changed lately, but whatever it is, keep doing it. We're assigning you to lead the March business audit. It's a big one." It was the kind of project that usually went to someone 5 years ahead of me. I nodded, trying to play it cool, but inside my heart flipped. That same night I texted Nina. I think I just got promoted in slow motion. Nina told you. All you needed was to stop dragging dead weight behind you. She was right. The certification I earned months ago. It finally kicked in, both financially and professionally. I got a pay raise, then a full benefits package, then an offer to transfer to the regional office in Santa Monica. New position, new salary, new zip code. It felt like breathing real air for the first time. I toured a few apartments out west and eventually signed a lease on a quiet 2-bedroom condo just a block from the beach. It wasn't fancy, but it had light. It had peace. And it was mine. I bought myself a used espresso machine, something I'd always wanted but never dared spend on. Every morning I stood at the kitchen window, sipping coffee. I didn't have to rush watching sunlight spill across the Pacific. It felt like a different life, but it wasn't. It was just my life without the weight of other people's guilt sitting on my chest. I stopped hiding my weekends. I started reading again. Long books thick with silence and soul. I walked along the beach barefoot. I signed up for a kickboxing class, not to burn calories, but to burn rage. It worked. One Saturday, I found an old folder at the bottom of a moving box. It had a half-finished vision board I'd made years ago. On it was a photo of a beach, a woman holding a briefcase, and a quote that read, "Live a life you don't need to recover from." I stood there staring at it, laughing quietly. I hadn't even realized I was building that exact life. Then one afternoon, as I was heading home from work, I saw someone familiar standing at the corner near my building. Shoulders hunched, wearing a coat too big for her frame. It was Ashley. For a second I thought maybe I imagined her. She looked nothing like the version I had grown up with. Her hair was brittle, dyed a harsh blonde that clashed with her tired face. Her makeup was caked on, like she was trying to disguise the years that had hit too hard too fast. She saw me, froze. I didn't move. She walked toward me slowly, her eyes scanning my face, my clothes, my new bag. "You look different," she said. Her voice cracked barely above a whisper. I didn't reply. She looked down at the sidewalk. "I came to ask if I could stay with you, just for a little while." I blinked. "Ashley, you lied to our parents. You lied to me. You made me a villain in your fantasy. You took my money, my time, and my dignity." She didn't argue, didn't make excuses. Instead, she whispered, "I didn't think you'd make it without them." And there it was, the truth. The ugly, tangled, fragile truth. She hadn't just sabotaged me out of greed. She did it because she didn't believe I could survive outside the system she thrived in. But I had, and now she was the one standing out in the cold. I took a breath. "You should go, Ashley." She didn't fight me. She just nodded. As she walked away, something inside me exhaled. Not relief, not revenge. Just closure. Later that night, I wrote a letter to my grandfather, something I'd never dared to do before. Dear Grandpa, you said one day I'd need a way out. You were right. I used what you left me not to run, but to rebuild. I wish you could see me now. I hope you'd be proud. The violets are blooming. Love, Lauren. And they were, all around me, not in gardens, but in my choices, in the way I carried myself. In the mornings I woke up without dreading the day. This wasn't just a second chance. It was the first time I'd ever been fully alive. 2 months after Ashley appeared at my doorstep, I got a knock on the door. It wasn't her. It wasn't my parents. It was a man in a gray blazer, holding a folder, and wearing the kind of polite smile that made my skin crawl. Miss Ward, he asked. I hesitated. Yes, I'm with Westbrook Consumer Finance. Are you familiar with Charles and Elaine Ward? My throat tightened. They're my parents, I replied slowly. His smile faltered. I'm sorry to bring this to you, but it appears they've listed you as a financial reference on a loan application. And unfortunately, they've defaulted. We're attempting to recover the balance. Would you be willing to speak about their current financial state? I stared at him dead in the eyes. I don't know those people, I said flatly. I have no financial ties to them whatsoever. Whatever they borrowed, they did it without my consent. He blinked, caught off guard. I see. Thank you for your time. He handed me a business card just in case, and left without pressing. I stood in the doorway for a long minute after he left, heart thudding. They had listed me on a loan. They were still trying to take. That night, I called Nina. She picked up on the second ring. Tell me it's not another family ambush. Worse, I sighed. They tried to use my name to get money. Again. She whistled low. Wow, they don't quit. Do you think they'll actually come back? I think people like that only stop when there's nothing left to take. She wasn't wrong. What I didn't know at the time was that the money trail didn't end there. Later that week, I got a message from one of my old coworkers at the accounting firm back in New Jersey. He'd heard a rumor, something about my dad. Hey, his message read, didn't your dad used to work for Union Freight? I replied yes. Well, I think he's working at one of the construction sites now, out near Hoboken, day labor, temporary agency stuff. It didn't make sense at first. My dad, who used to wear cufflinks just to go to the grocery store, he'd lost his job years ago, but I'd assumed he had taken early retirement, or maybe some side consulting gig. That's what Ashley always said. Turns out the severance he received when he left Union Freight, his entire safety net was gone. He'd dumped it all into a talent agency that promised to launch Ashley's acting career. The agency, of course, didn't exist. It was a scam. A polished fake studio with rented office space and mock contracts. They disappeared a week after receiving the payment. My father had wired nearly $60,000. My mother had taken out loans in secret to help push Ashley's dream forward. They'd even mortgaged what was left of their house, and now it was all gone. Ashley, devastated, bounced between low-tier gigs, local commercials, promo booths, cocktail lounges, but nothing lasted. Her attitude, once celebrated at home, got her blacklisted fast in the real world. One of Nina's acquaintances had seen her bartending at a dive bar near Trenton. Not the kind of trendy, dimly lit bar you see in movies, a real one, with cracked bar stools, flickering lights, and a jukebox that only played 90s country. She didn't even look like Ashley, Nina said, showing me a photo. Her once perfect posture was slouched, her makeup smeared. the light in her eyes gone. "She's changed," Nina said softly. "She looks lost." Part of me wanted to feel something. Sadness, regret, anger, pity. But all I felt was distance, not the cold, cruel kind, just distance like time. And healing had built a bridge I had no reason to cross. Later, I found out my parents had filed for bankruptcy. They sold the house and moved into a small apartment in a low-income senior housing complex. No more vacations, no more fine dining, just silence and bills. My father ended up working dispatch at a construction firm, oddly enough, the same company I had once done weekend shifts for when I was trying to scrape together money to help them. The irony was poetic. A friend of mine still working there texted me one afternoon. "Hey, random question. Was your dad named Charles Ward?" I stared at the screen. "Yes. Why?" "I think he works here now. Started last week. Didn't say much, but he mentioned something about his daughter once being a security guard. Said she worked too hard for her own good." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I didn't reply. Ashley, meanwhile, kept jumping from one bar to the next, getting fired, rehired, let go again. Her beauty, once her weapon, was fading fast under the weight of stress, alcohol, and years of entitlement meeting reality. Someone once told me, "The world doesn't care how pretty you are when you're unreliable." They were right, and yet I didn't hate her. Not anymore. What I felt was something closer to compassion, but at a safe distance. Like watching a ship sink from the shore, knowing you'd already offered a lifeboat once and been pushed out of it. I never reached out. Not to her, not to them. Some people mistake silence for bitterness, but my silence, it was peace, earned and guarded. I had stopped being their foundation, and the moment I did, the whole thing crumbled. 5 years passed. It's strange how life rebuilds itself when you stop dragging the past behind you. I was sitting in a pew at a small white chapel overlooking the ocean in Miami. The air was soft, salt-kissed. Sunlight spilled through tall windows, painting everything gold. It was Nina's wedding day. She looked radiant, sharp, and stunning in a sleek satin dress, eyes shining with that mix of joy and quiet certainty that only comes from choosing someone who truly sees you. Her husband, Evan, stood beside her with his hands folded and his smile steady. I hadn't known him long, but I didn't need to. The way Nina looked at him said everything. The ceremony was simple, honest. No over-the-top gestures, no forced speeches. Just two people promising to choose each other again and again. I sat near the front, wearing a dress I'd bought not for anyone else, but because I felt good in it. Confidence felt like a second skin now, not a performance, not a mask. When the vows were done and the cheers faded into soft jazz, Nina came to find me during the reception. "I have someone I want you to meet," she said, her eyes twinkling. I laughed. "You're not seriously playing matchmaker on your wedding day." "Why not?" she shrugged. "You gave me space to grow. Let me return the favor." Then she turned, and behind her stood a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, sun-browned, with sleeves rolled up just enough to show strong forearms. His smile was crooked in the best way, like he laughed easily and meant it. "This is Nick," Nina said. "He's a friend of Evan's, architect, runs his own firm out of Santa Barbara." Nick extended a hand. "So, you're the Lauren," he said, with a grin that made my stomach dip in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. "I guess that depends on what you've heard," I replied. He laughed. It was easy, uncomplicated, real. We talked over champagne and sea breeze, surrounded by laughter and dancing. What surprised me most wasn't how well we got along. It was how safe I felt, how seen. Nick didn't ask about my past. He didn't try to impress me. He asked about the books I was reading, the cities I wanted to visit, the projects that lit me up at work. He listened like none of it bored him, even the nerdy details. Later, he walked me out to the beach. We stood barefoot in the sand, the sky slowly turning lavender. He glanced at me, eyes soft. "You always this calm?" he asked. "No," I said, smiling, "but I earned it." That night, as I lay in my hotel room, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. I used to think healing meant going back to who I was before the hurt, but it doesn't. Healing is becoming someone new, someone who can hold the pain, learn from it, and move forward anyway. I'm her now. I thought of my grandfather. I hoped he'd be proud. You said the violets would bloom again. They have, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. For a long time, I believed that real love meant sacrifice, that to be a good daughter, a good sister, a good person, I had to bend, shrink, give until I disappeared. But here's the truth. I wish someone had told me sooner. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's control, it's dependence, it's manipulation, dressed in guilt and obligation. I grew up thinking my value was measured in how much I could endure, how quiet I could stay, how much I could give without asking for anything in return. I let people write the story of who I was, and for years I never picked up the pen, until I did, and everything changed. Walking away from my family wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. There were no apologies, no dramatic reconciliations, just space, and in that space I started to breathe. I learned that you can grieve someone who is still alive. You can mourn a relationship that never really existed the way you hoped it would. I used to carry shame about that, but not anymore. I've learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. That saying no doesn't make you unkind, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. And if you're someone listening to this feeling torn between duty and dignity, let me say something to you directly. You don't have to keep bleeding to prove you care. You are not responsible for fixing people who refuse to change. You are not a bank. You are not a bandage. You are not someone else's redemption arc. You are allowed to choose yourself, to heal, to grow, to thrive without dragging your past behind you like a shadow. The people who truly love you won't make you earn it by breaking yourself into pieces. They won't disappear when you set limits. They'll meet you where you are with honesty, with effort, with grace. And those who don't, let them fall away. You're not obligated to keep relationships that drain you simply because they share your blood. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up. It's who listens, who supports you without strings, who cheers for your growth even when it means you grow beyond them. That's the lesson, the one I bled for. And if sharing it here spares someone else the same heartache, then maybe it was all worth it. Because now I know healing isn't about erasing the pain. It's about building a life where that pain doesn't get to steer anymore. A life that belongs fully to you. And for the first time ever, mine finally does.